So the number of lap dancing clubs in Britain has gone up by how much since 1997? The answer is a titillating 1,150%.
Thank you kindly. You're watching Thursdays Don't Mention the Election Right Stuff with Steve first, Natalie Pinkham and our special guest Richard Herring. He's going to have the rest of today's headlines for you after this part. Now, these councillors then, who visited a string of lap dance clubs to understand how changes to the way these joints are licensed will affect them in the future, and all, of course, at council taxpayers' expense. Right Stuff at 5.tv is the place for your thoughts. And it's Cornwall County Council that's done this. Sent 12 elected officials on a fact-finding mission out... I can't even read it, let alone discuss it. They sent these 12 councillors on a fact-finding mission outside their own patch, in fact, to help them understand how revised licensing laws will impact on lap dance clubs. Because prior to last month, lap dancing and pole dancing venues were licensed as pubs and clubs. The skimpy dance element was just considered entertainment, but that has now changed. Clubs must now be re-licensed as sex encounter establishments, and that means the local authority must, amongst other things, assess the effect they're going to have on a neighbourhood. But what if the dancers wear body stockings and don't expose bare flesh? Well, then there would be no need for one of these new licences. And obviously it's going to take a visit or 2 or 10 to fully understand the subtleties of the law. I mean, you wouldn't expect your local council to approve a new supermarket or school without visiting the site first, would you? But 12 councillors visiting a string of different clubs, Steve?
Well, you know, you've got to research these things.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the main counsellor in this story, his name's Jim Flashman. Hey, ladies, Flashman's here again. Hey. This one's on me. He's not from the north, I should hasten to add.
He might have been an economic migrant. Oh,
was also, but it's just not a bunch of men going. There were 2 ladies as well. I don't know their names. Maybe they were Angel and Bambi. But it does beg the question: couldn't you have done this research by visiting the club in the hours of daylight and interviewing the management of clubs over the phone to find out how they're run or the effect on the neighbourhood? Did you have to kind of go at 2 in the morning, maybe? I don't know what time they did go, but I'm presuming they went to see it run as it normally is.
And I'm assuming they weren't taking £50 notes as given to them by council players and sticking them in the young ladies'
ballot papers.
Yeah.
X marks the spot.
I've got a really good idea as to save taxpayers' money. I'll tell them what goes on in these places.
Yeah.
I've been just the once, and I can tell you exactly what goes on. I mean, it's not rocket science, is it? Still haven't worked out who's exploiting who, though.
Well, there's that, and I have also visited lap dance clubs, and many years ago...
On a fact-finding mission.
On a fact-finding mission. At the Daily Mirror and indeed the Sun newspaper's expense. And there are differences. Some operate private booths, for example.
Can I tell you about my one experience
Yes,
at lap dancing club? I was telling the boys.
You were a
to say,
punter, yeah?
I went as a punter. I was with some guys, and they said, "Come on, Pinky, come down." You know, come into
Is that what they call you, Pinky?
I think it's my surname, yeah.
I'm Pinky.
I was Pinky that night. So we go into this lap dancing club, and these 3 girls come out, and they start dancing, and I was cringing, like really cringing.
Because bad dancers.
Yeah. Anyway, at one point, the girl turns round, and she sort of goes like this, and she goes, "Smack me, Angel." So I was like, "All right,
My name's
love."
Pinky.
Smacked her bottom. She went, "What are you doing?" And I said, "You told me to smack you." She goes, "No, my co-dancer's Angel. You're not allowed to touch me." I had no idea. I'd never been before or since.
There you go.
Richard, do you think this council fact-finding mission is justified?
Well, I mean, up to a point. I mean, I think you get this. You know, you think, oh, they must be having a job. It's not. I've never been to any of these things. I haven't. I would find it way too embarrassing. I just think, why would you want to pay someone to do though? If you're going to pay someone to do something, why not go the whole hog? Rather than wasting on someone you're not allowed to touch.
Peter Stringfellow to wear his thong in your own living room. That's a sight for sore eyes.
I still find that. I'd find it too embarrassing. I'd be be thinking about the people involved and why they were doing it. I just think it's humiliating for everyone, you know. But what's interesting about this is how did the other people at the club feel? These 12 people in suits coming in, standing at the back with checking lists, going, you know, it must have been a bit of a bummer for everyone else.
It's certainly a refreshing way of doing local politics. So what do we think at home? Do these Cornish councillors, were they doing the right thing or were they getting a thrill, and not a very cheap one either, at taxpayers' expense? Let us know your thoughts. Rightstuff@5.tv is the address for your emails. But to be absolutely honest, there weren't any other stories in the papers we could talk about today because it's filled with the stuff that we can't mention. Propaganda. After the break, though, it's Richard with what is remaining in today's headlines. But first, whatever doesn't focus on the election from the papers.
There's nothing in it. It's going to be difficult, but on the Daily Mail we've got talking about the Battle of Athens, as it's been called, the riots in Athens over the tax cuts and the problems with the euro, and unfortunately 3 people have been killed after a bank was...
No, those women there, they're coming out of a bank, the burnt bank, and I mean, they look like they've had a proper experience, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it is... It's kind of incredible scenes, which obviously, with all the economic problems kind of hitting their worst, but it's... But
their fury, isn't it, that it is the politicians and the politicians alone in Greece that have absolutely done for the country.
Well, absolutely, you know, and I think it's without condoning what's going on. I mean, this is kind of the inevitable consequences, I guess, of these things happening. It was the banks, it was the politicians that have created this, and people are angry, and this is kind of what's going to happen, and the rich people should maybe look at this and have a think.
The tragedy is, of course, it's never going to make any of it any better.
No. Of course not, but you know, I mean, it's terrible that people have died, you know, and I'm sure that was, you know, well, if you're going to firebomb something, you've got to take the consequences, I guess, of that. So that's the likely outcome. But obviously, that brings a kind of much more serious edge to it. But yeah, I mean, I think the rich people should go out and spend some of their money. That's the way to get over this economic crisis, isn't it? All these people sitting on the cash, and this is what's going to happen if they kind of sit on their money and just keep on making money. And then the poor people, that is what's going to happen. Okay. So that's a shame. We've got the oil slick in the Gulf, the US Gulf. BP says it's sealed one of the 3 leaks, so that's meant to be good news. That still means there's 2 leaks going. So I mean, this is like an enormous tragedy. I mean, 11 men have died in this, which I think is often overlooked.
In the initial explosion.
In the initial explosion, 11 workers were killed, which is massively overlooked, I think. Which is, I mean, obviously the environmental catastrophe is also an awful thing.
I was going to say, because while I mean they're very much focused on stopping any more oil coming up, there is tons and tons of oil floating in the sea, heading towards Louisiana and.
And dolphins and birds are dying, and then these lovely beaches are going to get covered up.
I did struggle to feel sympathy for the Portuguese man of war that was dead in the papers yesterday. Well, there we go. I'm sure somebody out there cares.
But yeah, I mean, you know, again, this is the consequences of the oil and the greed for oil and what we're doing, and it's kind of incredible it's happened in the first place. But also, again, I would like to focus on the guys who are working on these oil rigs, putting their lives in danger, and don't you know, and in fact have been ignored.
I had no idea.
Ignored with this, so that's pretty bad. And this one's. Slightly funnier story that I find it amusing, a Baptist minister, an anti-gay activist called George Reekers.
American,
he's an American guy, has hired a rent boy to go on holiday with him from I mean, it's confusing. It's a website.
The preacher?
Not the one with his top off.
Okay.
I mean, how do you know
the website's called rentboy.com. I mean, you might look at that and think, you might think, I'm just renting. But his argument is that he's had a surgery recently, he needed someone to carry his suitcases with him. So, of course, you go to rentboy.com, and then he's also said that... I mean, he's a religious guy, and he's tried to stop gay rights, so it's always... And you always wonder about these guys who are so furious about homosexuality.
Yes.
Well, who cares? You know, if you're not gay, what does it matter what anyone else does? Exactly. So if you're getting so furious about it, think, is there some other reason for this, George? That you're getting so cross? But he says, my hero is... I think this is quite offensive if you're religious. My hero is Jesus Christ, who loves even the culturally despised people, including sexual sinners and prostitutes. Like Jesus Christ, I deliberately spend time with sinners with the loving goal to try and help them. Well, I don't know what that says about Jesus, folks at home, but I'm not convinced.
Claim. What a
He
claim.
carried his own luggage. He could...
Jesus travelled light, though, didn't he? Yeah. Sandals and that's it.
And one last one, Richard?
The last one is another politician in trouble, where we've got lots on looking at topless women, as we were talking about earlier. And again in America, a senator in America, Mike Bennett, was caught during an abortion law debate looking at, on his computer screen, there was a picture of some scantily, well, naked ladies.
Was this research, do we know?
Well,
or,
I mean, he claims... No one just goes, yeah, you got me. If someone just went, yeah. I was a bit bored. I looked at some... and it's quite a boring picture of some girls standing together in a row. He says he got an email from someone and clicked on it and then realised what it was and immediately clicked away. Though he clicked away to a clip of a dog shaking off after going for a swim, which is kind of... Could be worse.
What I want to know is why does he have insulating tape stuck across the front of his computer screen? It just makes no sense to me. I'd have peeled it off.
But, you know, this is what makes... Politicians could just say they were human, go, yeah, I was a bit bored. Someone showed me a nice picture of some nice naked girls and I had a look. I'm sorry.
Nicely done, Miss Rach, nicely done. Pinky, what have you got for us?
OK, so the first one is a convicted burglar was